Hey! Alright, hey, welcome back to Spaghetti Western Project Risotto series. Yeah. Haven't been doing anything for a while other than just kind of getting ready for winter and collecting parts, trying to work out how things need to work in finishing up the engine for the Fiat, and also trying to figure out how to get my attention on the Lancia Scorpion Monte Carlo project again. It's just been, kind of a crazy time. Also, just cleaning up and getting ready for winter around here is it's a lot of work. And I'm cheap, and so I don't want to pay anybody to do any work for me. Oh, yes. Might have noticed my new shirt. It's electric. All right, none of that. Actually, my brother, he gave me this shirt. Actually, I was helping him out with. He's getting ready to move. And so I was getting just a load of junk after kind of helping him do some demolition in his house, because he's trying to get his house kind of fixed up. And I had this long piece of pipe that he was trying to get rid of, and it was sticking out of the back of my truck on the rack, and he tied this to it. And he worked for Tesla for a little bit, and we did solar together, and so he's really trying to, be kind of the responsible one and try and save the world as much as possible. I'm not against that at all. I'm just not as fervent about it. Otherwise, I was tempted to put like a little equal sign underneath that, if you remember that from math. Anyway, but let's get rid of that. Ugh. All right. So, yeah, here we are. This is a little bit better. I don't know if you can see this. Better on the back. It's a shirt that I got to support another channel on YouTube. This guy from, I think he's Irish? I don't think he's Scottish. But, his name is George, and he has a channel called Soup Classic Motoring, where he has worked on a variety of cars for himself, and just an amazing fabricator guy. He does some surfing out there, and also he does this stuff with his videos where it's almost like stop motion. Basically, he gets out of the way when he does something on camera, and so you basically get the effect of bolts undoing themselves, and it's quite magical. And I've been a fan of his channel, and he's had a long-term project of a Lotus Esprit S2, that's my favorite series of Lotus Esprit. It's the second series after the initial one, and he's just doing a fantastic job. So go check him out if you want something to do and be very well entertained. He's also done restorations on like Land Rovers, or actually a Range Rover, and Mercedes, and a big huge Sprinter van kind of conversion thing. Anyway, enough about him. I also, in the process of kind of cleaning up around the house, I also got into poison oak, which you got to be, out here in California, you have to be kind of aware of that. And apparently we have like an extremely potent, thing of it out here. But there wasn't any poison oak where I was digging. I didn't see any, but apparently there were roots under the ground and no poison oak above the ground, and I got it all over me, and it sucked for like 2 solid weeks of just blistery shit everywhere. I was just a mess. And so that was another reason why I didn't make any videos, because I was gross and uncomfortable and angry. that's over with. But during that time, I had a wonderful visit from a gentleman. I'm going to call him a friend now. His name is Ralph. I met him on this website for Fiats and Lancias called XWeb Forums. So if you have a Fiat or like a Lancia Scorpion, that kind of thing, there's just a ton of information on there. And anyway, Ralph, he's out in like on the East Coast, and he was coming in because his son is at the Presidio down here in Monterey, and I was like, and he was like, "This is what I'm doing," and I was like, "Dude, stop by, come on, I'll show you the projects and shake your hand," and it was just wonderful to meet him. I sent him parts, and he finished his Lancia Scorpion, and he sold it. But he also, like right after that, he got like a Fiat 128 two-door sedan, and he's been doing a great job on that. And so yeah, we kind of talk back and forth, a little bit, and he's just really fun to just kind of see and finally meet. And I don't know, I like hanging out with people, like-minded people. Who doesn't? So yeah, and aside from that, I found another Honda Fit at the junkyard, and so I went out looking to harvest parts for it, because I needed another one of these. This is like a support bracket for the fuel tank, but it also looked like it was going to fit perfectly, like as sort of a under engine kind of brace, because there seemed to be just a little bit of bracing needed underneath that Fiat 128 engine. And, it's much lighter steel. And so I wanted to add some bracing, and I had one of these from the Honda Fit that I have, but there were provisions for another one. And so this basically is just going to kind of protect the engine assembly and be like one of the first things to ever hit if I hit like a speed bump or anything, on the road, that, hopefully it will, this will be sort of the sacrificial piece versus like the oil pan, which hangs down kind of low for this. So anyway, yeah, I got another one of these, and I don't know if I did a Volvo engine swap. I had a Volvo 780 Bertone, and one of the things I did a Mustang 5-liter V8 transplant into that. And one of the things that I kind of learned about back then is Ford had kind of like a neat thing where, as a safety thing, they have this little safety switch, typically mounted in the trunk, close to the fuel tank. And this basically, connects the power to the relay that runs the fuel pump on the car. And essentially what it is it's an inertia switch. And so when this little red button, I'll do a little close up on it, is pushed down, that means the circuit is connected and everything is hunky-dory, and there's power to everything. But in the event of like a smack, like some sort of accident, or hitting or driving over something that we shouldn't have, it pops out. As long as it's affixed to a solid part of the car. If it isn't a flexi part of the car, this might not trip. But anyway, it basically pops at and stops the connection to the fuel relay, and the fuel tank pump doesn't pump anymore. And I like the small margin of safety that this kind of provides. So I picked up one to route into the fuel system of the Lancia Scorpion, and I just grabbed another one to do with the Fiat 128. And also, of course, it's also one of those things that if you're going to leave the car parked and you don't have anything in it, but you don't want the car stolen, this is kind of like a nice little secret thing where you can just mount this in the trunk somewhere, and if you have just anything really to whack it, you just pop the trunk open and kind of give it a whack, and that way they can't even hotwire the car because the fuel won't run. They have to like literally drag the car away, and it's just one of those things that can interrupt an opportunity for a thief, because most thieves they can basically figure out how to defeat safety stuff like that, but if it takes extra time, that screws it up for them, and more likely than not, they'll just kind of give up and try to move on to something easier. I hate thieves. So anyway, there's that. Yeah, also, what I did not get with the Honda Fit, because it was crashed and it had front end crash damage, is the guy who I was buying the carcass from, he had already removed the radiator because it was just completely destroyed. And let's see, this Mishimoto radiator that I want to use has a let me show you for it. This is actually designed for a Volkswagen VR6, and it has a inlet and outlet on the same side, which is convenient. And there's a divider in the tank here, so basically it comes up and goes all the way over, comes down, and then comes all the way over. And so it's basically it's a longer circuit for the cooling to take, and the fluid has a longer time to cool down. So the idea is basically it does a more thorough job of cooling the coolant. Anyway, it has this little plug up here for a temperature sender, and there was like this aluminum plug for it. But I found out that I needed a Honda little temperature sender. And I thought, well, hell, I've got like these ones from the Fiat, and actually the Fiat ones just bolt right into place, right from the Fiat 128. However, all this is just basically a switch, and I thought that's what all this would be. And this just basically, once it hits a thermal threshold, it just clicks on the contacts, make contact and connect the circuit, and it allows the fan to spool up, and the fan runs until the temperature is brought down low enough, and then the thermal switch kicks off. I thought that's what it is, but this thing has to go back to the Honda ECU. It's a 2007 car, so everything has to be a little more complicated. So, yeah, and obviously it does not fit in here. I had the brilliant idea, because I had two of these thermal switches. I was like, oh, it's just, this has got to be solid brass right here. I can just, hollow it out and thread it, and no, these things are completely hollow. It's just, I spent like a half hour slowly dismantling this, and I was like, wow, there's just nothing in here. It's just a little hollow shell. So I guess I have to drill and tap this aluminum plug. And that's fine. Anyway, so that's one more thing I was figuring out. All right, and let me just make some space. I had grabbed the short drive shafts of both of these vehicles, and I was kind of comparing them as far as splines going. Oh, right, is it possible to use one or the other for the other? And no, it's really not. However, what I was kind of curious about was I was like, oh well, do they use the same sort of little tripod setup? Tripod? I don't know. Basically, these bearings that on the transmission side fit into the CV, the female CV joint, and the transmission drives in. But they're kind of a long channel, 3 long channels that allow the drive shaft to slide in and out depending on how the suspension is moving. So yeah, there's some built-in allowances for or tolerances for movement while that thing is moving around. And I was like, huh. Well, is there any possibility that because all these splines are different, that I could adapt the Honda ends to here, so that to the Fiat ends so that I could basically drive them. Kind of use the Honda female sockets and the Fiat drive shafts, because these are specific to the Fiat wheels and hubs as far as the splines and everything. And essentially, I figured, okay, I'm probably going to have to change the length of these at some point. And the reason was I don't want to try and cut one of these and splice it to this, because the diameters are different and everything like that. And if I can just do it on the same axle, basically that makes joining this axle up again far easier. Essentially, you can cut it, shorten it, and if you find a length of tubing that's the same diameter as this, you can after welding this, you can slide the tube onto this and do like some rosette welds. So it just basically adds strength back into this axle so that it doesn't snap on you. And of course, eventually you want to probably send off for like a new axle centerpiece to be machined and splined at the exact right length and everything like that. But until then, you kind of want to play around with these lengths and make sure that your dimensions are correct, and that that actually does sort of drive, and the suspension articulates and there's no binding and that kind of stuff. So it's a long way around me saying I disassembled one of these little bearings. It's just a bunch of needle bearings with a little ring clip that kind of holds it all together. And I was like, okay, well, I took out the little needle bearings, and I was like, well, will this fit the Honda thing? And the Honda, it doesn't have exposed needle bearings. It's a little sealed bearing thing that, you can disassemble it, but it's an internal bearing, and it's got a much larger diameter than the Fiat one. And so, but there's so many different aspects of this. The distance from the center of the axle to the outside of this is the same as the Honda one. So yes, it can work. I just needed to be able to figure it out. So what I figured out was I have some 20 gauge steel sheet metal, and so I made a little sheet metal piece. You know, there's a couple of iterations, but eventually I figured out that this will just press on nice. Like it is a nice tight interference fit, and there's provision for this little ring to get popped back on like so, and this bearing is now locked on to the Fiat axle. So yeah, I will cut to a shot of inside the little portable garage, because the Fiat isn't in here anymore, because I had to, before winter, get my wife's car back in here. It's just what it is. And I put the Fiat out in the portable garage, and so I finally got off my butt and took the Fiat axles and stuck them into the wheel hubs so I could figure out how much I have to shorten these guys. And it's essentially 3 inches on each one, but we'll cut to that.
Okay, here we are. And here is the engine in the bay, strut tower bar, all that stuff. So we're going to look at the drive shafts, or the half shafts, whatever the hell they are. So on the short side, that is the Honda female coupler, and this bearing basically needs to kind of be right in the middle. So we need to shorten it probably by 3 inches. So there's that. And on the other side, yeah, it's at least that much on that side. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with that.
So yeah, one of the weird little things too is these axles are almost the same length, and the Honda Fit track, the track of the car, is 6 inches wider than the Fiat, and I was like, where's all that, you know, mass coming from? And apparently transmission is considerably beefier and larger. So yeah, I'm going to have to make up that 6-inch track by cutting basically 3 inches off of each one of these. And oh yes, next. Ugh. Gas tanks. The next big thing. So this is a Fiat 128 fuel tank, and this is the top of it, that's the back of the car, it's the front of the car, and this is the little outlet. There was a fuel level sender connected to this, and gas gets sucked out of here with an external fuel pump and feeds carburetors. It's in okay condition. I mean, it's not too bad. There's like, you know, a couple of little things, I think. So, yeah, little denty poo on there. And that's not a big deal. And I needed a way to figure out how to hook this up to the Fiat 128 and make it work with the Honda engine, because this is not going to work. This is the Honda Fit fuel tank. Actually, this is the back of the car here. Maintain front and backs of vehicles. Okay, and so yeah, fuel pump here. These are, I guess, things that measure fumes and pressure. I don't know exactly. Whatever. But the dang thing is plastic. And that's cool. That's fine. Even easier if it was made of metal. But that's fine. Yeah, so essentially, kind of my idea for this is, because they're the same basic capacity, this little sensor guy here is about the same diameter as this one. So I'm basically going to take this and drill it with, you know, a gasket of some kind or epoxy, some kind of fuel-safe epoxy, to bond it right here. This doesn't really need to come out and move anymore, and this can just basically go away. The fuel pump and the other valve, I am thinking about kind of placing here in sort of like a teardrop shape. And but this is a little bit higher, so I'm going to need to like build like a 1/4-inch spacer. I'm going to have to make like a little CAD file and probably send it to that place, send, cut, send, and have them do a couple of different like identical patterns for me in like 1 in aluminum, and then 2 in steel. Like 1 in steel under here after I kind of flatten out this little strengthening rib, and weld it to the underside of this, or have, you know, some long bolts that come through it, and go through a spacer, and then have this, you know, kind of bolt on top of the spacer, and then also a finishing little plate that can, you know, just have nuts nutted down on top of it to finish bolting this all together. And then chop off these parts and make this connect somehow the rest of the way. So, yeah, I have ideas about getting this done, and I'm basically figuring stuff out at this point. All right, so one of the other things for the Lancia, or Lancia, that I've been working on is the deck lid over the engine. The way it opened was always a compromise. I mean, it opened up from, it was hinged on this side, and it would open up like this, and that's well and good, but there's really no access to anything on this engine, and it's basically useless to open up the deck lid this direction. And so I was thinking of joining together these sail panels and the deck lid, and putting a hinge inside here so that it could essentially open up like this, as, you know, one big piece. And, you know, that might be the thing to do. It's, you know, it's going to take a little bit of brain work to figure that out. But then I just recently saw another video about the Maserati Bora, which is a neat car from this late 60s, early 70s. And it has a longitudinal V8. And the way that deck lid opened was it was hinged on the back, and you know it opened up, you know, this direction. And that actually seems to be like a little bit more useful because you know the front of the engine. Right. So, well, yeah, the front of the engine is in the passenger compartment to a certain degree, but yeah, the back of the engine is right here, and just access. I can if I can just lean right here. I can access spark plugs, I can, you know, valve covers, fuel rails. I have a lot more access on this, you know, being this close to the firewall. And yeah, it just seems to make a lot more sense that instead of having like a deck lid kind of like, that I have to kind of scooch under to do that, to have a deck lid that goes the other direction, that just kind of allows me the freedom to reach this stuff. That does seem to be a smarter way to do it. So yeah, we'll probably end up doing that. But I did spend a little bit of time trying to figure out hinges for this kind of thing, and I'll probably have to use them, you know, still the kind of similar kind of hinge on the other end. But yeah, let's I'll show you. I was playing with cardboard. Time for Fancy Feast. I hope I was actually recording that. Anyway, we'll see. Right, so this was sort of my idea for, like, this is like a profile of the sail panel, and you know, it's not to scale, but I was, you know, trying to figure out, you know, designs as far as hinges, and you know, like hinges, one single point hinge oftentimes will never work on a car because there's always something in the way. Like this top leading edge, you know, it would just, you know, crank, you know, into some adjoining sheet metal. And because we all like, you know, to have nice tight gaps on everything like that, it just would look weird if, you know, you could open the hood or the deck lid like that far. So you need to play around with cardboard. And so this was sort of my initial thing of like, you know, here it is, and it kind of goes up and away as it raises up. And, you know, this kind of stuff is kind of fun to play with cardboard. It kind of breaks your brain to try and just, you know, get it to this point, but I don't know. Even if I, you know, rear hinge it, I would probably have to have like, you know, something kind of like this anyway to clear other sheet metal. But anyway, so that's kind of what I've been up to. Just gotta say, you know, I'm thankful for all the wonderful people in my life. Yeah, this world is pretty crazy, and it only seems to be getting crazier and crazier, and that's all right. The world has always been crazy, and people have always been crazy, and that's, I think, just part of living in this life. It's just important to know who you are and kind of stand up for what you believe to be true. I think, yeah, hopefully very soon we're going to be like going, all of us together, toward a point of peacefulness, but it always seems to be that there has to be so much stupid conflict in going in that direction. And I don't even care who anyone voted for. We're all the same people. We're all on the same planet. I'm not doing, you know, these projects to make the world a worse place. I'm doing my best to make them a better, you know, as good as possible. given the circumstances that we live in. And I just like to create. So there's that. I hope all of you are doing well. And you have my love. And I can't be with hardly anybody anymore lately because it just seems like we don't have a whole lot of family nearby. Athena and I are going to go and visit her brother and her mom. And so yeah, I'm trying to get our truck ready for that. And it suddenly decided to throw up engine codes, which is something that I have to deal with reactively, and that's fine. But yeah, it'll be nice to go visit family. I hope that anyone watching this doesn't feel completely alone in this world, because you're truly not. And all this technological bullshit and this crazy world that we're living is kind of isolating at times. But really, we are all in this together. And let's just kind of be thoughtful about that, and know that we are really all together. We can't escape each other. Even if you're a billionaire, you're not getting anywhere. You're not going anywhere. You can be in a fortress somewhere. What's the point? I mean, so anyway, I just I want to wish everybody a happy end of year celebration. Merry Christmas or Hanukkah or Ramadan or whatever it is. Just keep doing the best you can, and so will I. Anyway, you have my best. I love you, and I'll see you later.